All right, it looks like we are live with our second ever Deep Recruiting. Now, what Deep Recruiting is all about is really providing with the recruiting community out there a tool, a podcast just for you, designed exclusively for you on how to help you make more revenue. To that end, we will be taking viewer questions. You can email your questions to us at deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. And the harder your scenario is, the more likely I'm going to pick it to make a discussion about it. Now, this week, we're going to talk about the value of training and why continuous training is really very important for you. The next one we're going to do, which is going to be on Monday, I believe the 11th, that one is actually going to be geared towards a post I made about using the hashtag desperate on your LinkedIn profile and the pros and cons of that, and how to actually leverage your frustration and looking for a job as a tool to make your job search much more successful. So you're going to want to tune in for that. We're going to have a special guest, sales trainer Brian Flanagan is going to be helping us discuss those options for us so that we can give you the tools to make your job search a little bit more successful and hopefully help the recruiters help you become more successful as well. Now, I want to talk today a little bit about training. These podcasts are not going to be very long, kind of a maximum of 15 minutes because we need you to get on with your day. So what is the value of continuous training? And I always think about Michael Jordan. What I've read about Michael Jordan is that he would train for 3 hours a day on his free throw. 3 hours a day. Now, you might think to yourself, why does a man who's the GOAT, the best at what he does, why should he spend 3 hours a day training? Well, that 3 hours a day training is what made him the GOAT. And he was so good, everybody's gunning for him. Everybody wants to be just as good as Michael Jordan, but nobody could outwork him. And to stay on top, he needed to make sure he put in the work to stay ahead of everybody else. When somebody says, hey, this person over here is the GOAT, but that person they're calling the GOAT has Michael Jordan's emblem on his shirt, we all know really who the GOAT is. So what is the value of continuous training? I personally have been involved in continuous training since 1994. That is now 30 years of it. And I still spend probably on average about 2.5 to 3 hours a week in specialized sales training. Sometimes I'm going back over old training modules. Sometimes I'm listening to another person's podcast. Sometimes I'm listening to a module on psychology of persuasion. Sometimes it's just an in-depth conversation with somebody who's steeped in the psychology of persuasion. Now, a lot of the training I do, I'm going to do in my car. I think Zig Ziglar called it Automobile University. If he didn't originate that, sorry to whoever did, but that's where I learned it from. Automobile University is one of the best places you can do, or one of the best places you can invest your time in improving yourself. You're stuck in traffic for 15, 30, 45 minutes. Think about the amount of training you can get in that commute 5 days a week if you're not working hybrid or working remote. Think about the amount of training you can get if you listen to training while you're working out, while you're taking a walk, while you're cleaning the house, doing the dishes, taking a shower. There's all kinds of opportunity today for you to be getting continuous, constant training. Think of it like church. Why do people go to church? Well, the big reason they go to church is they're constantly reinforcing the message they already know. That constant reinforcement helps keep them on the path they believe they need to be on. Sales training is honestly no different. It's very easy to go through training, learn the basics, make these kinds of contributions to your own career, and then get all full of yourself. I know what I'm doing. I don't need any help with this. I've got this covered. And then slowly but surely, you start shortcutting the process and eliminating some of the little things that you unknowingly were relying on before. Then slowly your success begins to diminish and you don't know why. And you start blaming external factors. Oh, it's the market. It's just a wrong time for the buyers. I've got a crummy product. I'm overpriced. The competition's gotten better. These are all externally focused points of blame. And as a true professional, if you really look at the people that win at sales, they never blame anybody else. They blame themselves. Every time a sales goes south on them, they look at themselves and they try to figure out, what did I do wrong? For example, in recruiting, here's an example. I represented a gentleman once who was a Visual Basic developer. This is a long time ago, working at one of the premier companies here in the Dallas area, one of the companies that everybody wanted to work for. Now, of course, I asked him, why would you consider leaving this company? His answer was, and I quote, "I'm on a Visual Basic island in a sea of Java and the water's rising. They won't train me in Java. They won't let me work on any Java projects, and I'm starting to drown here." I still didn't believe him. I made him go home and I told him, in 3 days, I want you to think about this for 3 days. Then I want you to send me an email, and I need you to convince me that if I get you an offer, the offer we were discussing with the job I had open, if I get this kind of offer from you, that I have your word that you're going to accept that offer. Well, I got that email. He interviewed. He got exactly the offer we discussed. And guess what? He rejected the offer because magically, all of a sudden, that company was now willing to train him in Java. Whose fault was that? Was that the candidate's fault? Was that his employer's fault? Absolutely not. It was my fault. Why? Because I believed the narrative he was selling me. I never should have believed him. The mistake I made was believing him. He was using me as leverage to get the Java training he wanted. So that was a failure on my part. When you take that level of responsibility and you look at every sales call that goes bad and the ones that go really well, you self-reflect, you find the gaps in your performance, and then you go to fill those gaps. And the way you fill those gaps is through training, whether that's books, podcasts, whatever learning program you've got, or going and talking to a mentor, your manager, a professional at another company, whatever it is, that's training. And you should be doing that every single time you have an after action report from a sales call, and you should be doing an after action report after every single call. I don't care how good that sales call went, you should do an after action report. And if it went fantastic, if there's nothing you could have done better, then you go back and you look at those, and then you do work to reinforce the activity you're engaging in that made that such a great sales call. I don't care how smart you are, you cannot outthink this process. Building a sales career without solid sales training, to me, is like trying to build a house without a foundation. You can put the framing up, you can put the drywall up, you can furnish it, paint it, make it look as beautiful as you want. But if you don't have that concrete foundation, the first rainstorm that comes along, it's going to wash everything away. And all that work you did is for nothing because you didn't take the time to build that basic, simple foundation. So I hope I've convinced you of the value of constant sales training. That's what this podcast is going to be about, is constant sales training. Again, giving you the tactics you need to succeed. This is going to be relevant to recruiters. It's going to be relevant to salespeople, and it's even going to be relevant to job seekers. So we hope, or I hope, that we have your vote of confidence, that you'll be tuning back in once a week and enjoying this live stream. Remember, you can email us specific issues at deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. Again, that is deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. And if your email gets chosen, we will be discussing it right here on a live stream and coming up with a solution that you can implement. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate you tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Thanks so much.